Drive safely. See what I did there? Give them a call at 480-210-9090 or go to newvisionautoglass.com to see what kind of incentives and cashback you qualify for. Look, the valley heat, potholes, flying rocks, it's only a matter of time until your windshield gets cracked or chipped. So why not get the experts to come to you, repair or replace your windshield, give you instant cash back of up to $375, and give you dinner from Radisho Grill. Wait, hold up. 30 seconds, $375, new windshield, dinner. You know what? I was wrong. It's not a win-win situation. It's a win-win-win-win. And it all starts with calling 480-210-9090 or going to newvisionautoglass.com, taking 30 seconds to fill out a form to get cash in your pocket, repair or replace your windshield, dinner at Rodizio Grill, and peace of mind. To me, the choice is clear. New Vision Auto Glass, proud partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks.
If you're tired of struggling to lose weight, Red Mountain Weight Loss has the solution. Discover the power of semaglutide and tirzepatide, the breakthrough GLP-1 medications that are transforming lives. You lose up to 15 pounds a month without feeling hungry or deprived. That's huge because it makes it easier for you to lose weight. And that's what we do. At Red Mountain, our doctors specialize in medical weight loss. We've helped people lose weight for over 30 years now, and we can help you too with quality GLP medications that cost less than half the price of Ozempic. Visit us in person, online, or skip the doctor visits altogether, and we'll ship the medication direct to your door. For a limited time, you can save $100 on any GLP-1 program and get our lowest prices of the year. Find your weight loss solution and lose up to 15 pounds by this time next month at Red Mountain Weight Loss. Go to redmountainweightloss.com. That's redmountainweightloss.com.
When you're injured on the job, you need more than just a workers' comp lawyer. When you need a fighter, you need us. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. For the people. Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix. It's the lunch break.
Now we can say that spring training has begun. Welcome in to this Tuesday, February 25th edition of the Lunch Break. Chris Schubert with you live on KDUS AM 1060, the KDUS AM 1060 app, and on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel. Combine week continues, starting to hear some rumblings of what free agency might look like. Getting closer to the Cardinals maybe making a big splash. Spring training, Zac Gallen made his first start yesterday. The Suns back in action tonight. A whole host of stuff for you on today's menu. But we start with today's daily special, and it requires us to go to yesterday's spring training game.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
Now we've gotten to spring training. When we are worrying, freaking out about having to dissect starting pitchers pitching 1, 2, 3 innings and breaking it down the way that we do in spring training. Now spring has begun. Now the baseball season is right around the corner. These practices, these workouts, that's not real spring training. This is when real spring training begins, because after Corbin Burns made his first start for the Diamondbacks on Friday in the spring, it was Zac Gallen's turn yesterday. He threw 1 inning, and it's not the stat line that everybody is worried about. It is his velocity, because here we go again. Yesterday, in his 15-pitch outing, he averaged 90.6 miles per hour on his fastball, and 91.7 is where it topped out at. Now, according to the story that I'm looking at, his average last year was about 3 miles per hour more in the regular season last year. And so here we go again. This feels somewhat like a rite of passage when discussing the Diamondbacks and spring training. And the reason why I opened the show with this today is there's a lot of other topics to discuss. Cardinals are going to meet with the media today. We're going to hear from Jonathan Gannon. We're going to hear from Monty Ossenfort at the NFL Scouting Combine. We are already starting to hear some buzz, some news, players potentially being available in free agency. Matthew Stafford stuff starting to heat up. What we talked about yesterday on the show when we set the tone for the week is starting to come to fruition less than 24 hours later. So there's a lot to unpack there. The Suns are going to take on Memphis tonight. We'll talk about that in the next segment. A lot to get to, but the reason why I wanted started with Zac Gallen and I wanted to start with his velocity, is honestly I wanted to get it out of the way. It's a conversation. We're going to touch on it briefly, and then we're going to put it away. Why? Because I'm not that concerned about Zac Gallen and his velocity in his first spring training start when he's throwing only one inning. I'm not concerned about Zac Gallen being at 90.6 on average with his fastball yesterday, because it was just last year in spring where he was sitting at around 89 to 91, sitting at around that 90 mark, and we were worried. We're concerned. That's the first thing you look at to see if a starting pitcher is healthy. That's normally the first thing that you look at when looking for signs of maybe a pitcher dealing with something. Where's their fastball velocity at? Where is it at in comparison to what their average career norms are, right? That's what you look at. But with Zac Gallen, we saw this story play out last year. We saw a guy show up to camp, and it took him a little bit to get going. He averaged 93.6 miles per hour on his fastball during the season, so last year. So during spring was as low as 89 to 91, and then when the season started was able to ramp it up to nearly 94 miles per hour. So I don't worry about what he looked like in his first start. I worry if this is a trend that continues and he hovers around this number all throughout the spring and it lingers into the regular season, then I'll start to throw up the warning signs if something doesn't feel right. But we have seen this story play out before. So I file this story away as not anything to worry about, not anything to be overly concerned about. But now we know that spring training has begun because these stories are being written, because everyone's paying attention to a guy's velocity in these spring starts. And it also piggybacks off of Corbin Burns having a very nice outing when he was on the mound at the end of last week. And we know there's an ongoing conversation on who is going to start opening day for this team. You file it away. You don't ignore it. You take note of it. Okay. His velocity, not where it was during the regular season last year, but you have a prior history with this. This is not the first time that this has happened, which allows at least me, and what I'm trying to say to all of you today, it allows me to breathe a sigh of relief and not even think about this. I saw this yesterday kind of floating around, his velocity being down, and I follow a bunch of Twitter accounts that put up these graphics of starting pitchers and their starts and a breakdown of all of their pitches. I am a baseball nerd in that way. So I saw the Zac Gallen graphic get put out there by a couple of the people that I follow, and everybody was talking about his velocity was down, wasn't where he was sitting during the regular season, and I could just feel that conversation starting to bubble, and I knew it was going to be somewhat of a talking point. And so I am going to try to start the show with it to calm you down if you are worried about it, or if you are out there and you're like me and you're not worried about it at all, you want to see the rest of the spring progress, then we're going to get this out of the way, and we're going to continue on with the show and get into some of the meat and potatoes here in Arizona with the Suns back in action with the Scouting Combine. And I want to talk about Trey McBride here on the show as well today. So don't worry too much today. If you are worried about Zac Gallen and his velocity looking a little down yesterday, my warning to you, don't worry. Worry if this is what it looks like when he's making that final spring training start. These guys know their bodies better than we do. They know what their ramp up has to look like. They know what their progression from start to start in spring training needs to be. They know when things feel off, when things feel weird, when things feel different. And if Zac Gallen felt that way, he would have alerted the Diamondbacks and we would know about it. This is all part of that process. This is all part of gearing up in the correct way so that you can hit the ground running. You might save a little in the tank. Last time Zac Gallen pitched for this team was in, September? Now it's February. That ramp up takes some time, and you want to take it easy. You want to go through the right steps. The idea here is that Zac Gallen and Corbin Burns are each making 30-plus starts for this Diamondbacks rotation, leading the way for them to challenge the Dodgers in the National League West. So I'm not going to be overly concerned today, especially because we saw this play out last year, and we went through the freak out last year. We went through this roller coaster ride of paying attention to every single pitch and what the radar gun said every time Zac Gallen threw a fastball in the spring after we noticed his velocity was down. And we noticed something didn't seem right. We were going over every fastball with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that nothing was up. So I'm not going to allow the worry that we had last year to carry over into the worry that we have this year. At least not today, at least not right now. Talk to me 2-3 spring training starts down the road. Everything is still full systems go, all pushing ahead towards the start of the regular season. I don't want to bury this in the middle of the show. I wanted to start it out here in the get-go. Get it out of the way, talk about it, because I know it was a story yesterday. I am not concerned today about Zac Gallen and his spring velocity woes, because this is not the first time we've dealt with this. Dealt with it last year, might deal with it at least for another start as he ramps up. But pitchers, baseball, creatures of habit, routines, this is all part of a routine for him to get ready. He starts having this type of diminished velocity, right? Last year, his average fastball velocity, 93.6. We get to the first couple starts of the regular season, and he's sitting in the low 90s, losing almost 3 miles per hour on his fastball. Yes, you get concerned. You call into the show and you ask about this. You have a conversation about it. Do the Diamondbacks need to shut Zac Gallen down? We have those conversations when the season begins if this continues. It didn't continue last year in a big way. He averaged anywhere from 89 to 91 in spring last year. Last year, in the regular season, 93.6 on the average. So we've seen this story before. I am not going to get worried about it here today. The Diamondbacks will be back in spring training action later on today. I believe they take on the Cubs today. The undefeated, mind you, Cubs in spring training. I know everybody cares about records in spring training. The Diamondbacks will be back in action later on today. And from all the reports, from what we're hearing, looks like it's going to be a day where we see all of the guys, or at least most of the guys, in the Major League bullpen. So our first chance to see A.J. Puck as the closer battle will start. That can get underway. And so the Diamondbacks, we saw Corbin Burnes make a start. Zac Gallen threw an inning. Now we can start to see this bullpen battle play out. Who is going to close games for this team? Who is going to have that ninth inning role? Who is going to be the workhorse for Torey Lovullo to pencil in those key spots, and then he can work backwards from? It's always nice when you walk into the clubhouse on a given day knowing I've got this guy starting for me. We're expecting this many outs from him. I've got 3 outs from my closer tonight, and then I've got to bridge the gap, and you can work backwards. Okay, this guy would be really good against this pocket of the lineup in this spot, and you can start to map out what the game might look like. Well, in order to have that guy in the 9th inning, in order to have that confidence in who your closer is going to be, we got to have a competition, and we're going to have that competition here over the course of spring. So A.J. Puck, Justin Martinez, Ginkel, maybe Kendall Graveman. I think those are the 4 guys to keep an eye on, but I'm really paying attention to A.J. Puck and Justin Martinez as the 2 guys to keep an eye on for this closer's role. I've been on record. I think it should be Justin Martinez. I think he has the better stuff. I think that stuff plays better in the 9th inning. I do worry about the command, but I am not saying that you have to lock Justin Martinez in as your closer for the entirety of the season. I just think his stuff plays the best. I would want to start with my guy who I think has the best stuff for the 9th inning, has the best stuff for those high leverage situations, has the best stuff for swing and miss capabilities. Sometimes I'm going to need to bring that reliever in a key spot where there's a runner on, and I can't afford a sac fly. That ties the game. I need somebody that has swing and miss stuff. I think that guy is Justin Martinez. That's why I lean towards him to be this closer. But that is not to say that he has to be the guy for the entirety of the season. If he struggles, if the command issues continue to be there, if he isn't as consistent as the team needs him to be, this is why you have an A.J. Puck. This is why you have a Kevin Ginkel. That's why you sign Kendall Graveman. So you have options that you can turn to if things don't work out with whoever you pick as your closer on opening day. So we'll get our first glimpse of that today with A.J. Puck scheduled to go when they take on the Cubs later on today. The phone number for you to hop into the program today, 480-864-1060. Would love your thoughts on Zac Gallen. Would love your thoughts on the Suns, who are back in action tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies. We're talking a lot of Cardinals and the scouting combine today. Maybe you want to weigh in on your dream offseason for the Arizona Cardinals. Your phone calls, always welcome, 480-864-1060. That's the way you can hop into the program. You can also do so on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel. You can hop into the live comments there as well. Share your thoughts all throughout the program. So a brief baseball segment to start the show. I wanted to get this Zac Gallen story out of the way, and now we can get into the meat and potatoes of the menu here today on the program. And we have to get back into the basketball team on the other side of the break. I have one very important question for the Phoenix Suns. Will anybody step up? That's next on the lunch break. KDUS, AM 1060.
Every Monday night, check out Ray Adams as he hosts the Monday Night Golf and Lifestyle Show from 6 to 7 p.m. here on KDUS AM 1060.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win, breakaway, pick six, three-point shot, underdog win, buzzer beater, shootout, walk-off, and absolutely every play in between is amazing. From football to basketball and hockey to baseball, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Arizona.
Rock legend Billy Idol. Live in Phoenix. Billy Idol. It's a nice day to tour again. With very special guest Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Live at Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater, April 30th. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Part of the America First Credit Union Concert Series.
Take advantage of thousands of dollars in SRP rebates and discounts on energy-efficient home upgrades like new air conditioning units, windows, ducts, and insulation. Save money on your energy bill while also making your home more comfortable. SRP's network of participating contractors can guide you from start to finish and maximize your savings by combining Inflation Reduction Act incentives with SRP rebates. Learn more at savewithsrp.com.
Only 50% of Arizonans believe their health insurance will cover them in a major medical emergency, like a car accident or an unexpected life-changing diagnosis. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona aims to change that perception. AZ Blue often takes care of more than 99% of hospital charges in major emergencies, protecting you and your family from devastating financial consequences. To learn more about how AZ Blue protects its members, head to azblue.com/true story.
Jim Rome here with your Rome Report. The biggest storyline around the league right now is what will the Rams do with their quarterback, Matthew Stafford? He's still under contract, but has very little guaranteed money left on that deal, and he wants a new one. And if they don't give it to him, you know some other desperate quarterback-starved team will. So Stafford at 37 still has that hammer in his hand, and he's got it because you know there's a market for him, and he's still playing at a high level. So do the Rams once again rock their believe them picks mindset and push everything to the center of the table and make one more run with Stafford? Or do they get what they can for him, stockpile draft capital, and convince themselves they can win with another stopgap measure like Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers? It says here, there is no way they are better without Stafford than they are with him. He and they gave the Eagles all they could handle in the divisional round. So figure out a way to pay this guy what he's worth and take one last run with him. It's by far your best option if you're the Rams. I'm Jim Rome.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Lowe's knows how to help you get the most out of your store run. That's why members save more with My Lowe's Rewards. Earn points towards My Lowe's money on eligible purchases. Get access to member-only deals and free member gifts. Plus, unlock free standard shipping when you reach Silver Key status. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
The Varsity Sports Show dives into Arizona high school sports, JUCO, NAIA, and NCAA sports. Catch it Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. on KDUS AM 1060.
I need to vent about something, producer Corey, and I think you are going to be on my side with this one.
Okay, it's not me, is it?
No. Producer Corey's in today doing the program. He's doing a fantastic job. I'm not complaining about you. I believe we've talked many a times on this program. I coach my daughter's softball team. We practice a lot 2 times a week. We play games on Saturdays. It's basically a second job. I have this job, and then I have that job that it entails.
Okay.
We have a coaching group chat where we discuss plans.
All right.
Now, the problem is when we started the group chat, everybody else in the group chat has an iPhone. I do not.
Yeah.
I am an Android user.
Yes.
I was removed then from said group chat.
Yes, you were.
So I decided during the break, because we have practice tonight, I texted one of the coaches and I said, hey, I've got a great idea for tonight for practice. What do you think about this? And I outlined what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Well, I got a response. Forgot you weren't in the group chat. We've already discussed this.
Oh.
You took me out of the group chat.
Oh.
You were the ones that complained that I had the green bubbles.
Which look better, by the way. I'm also Android.
In the group chat. And so you removed me from the conversation.
Yes.
So do I have a right to be a little upset? Like,
Oh, and that's annoying, very.
Don't bring this on me.
Yeah.
You forgot because you took me out.
Yeah, if you kick somebody out, you can't forget that you kicked them out. That's ridiculous.
Right. And then there are times where I'll show up to practice and they're like, yeah, we talked about this. I'm like, guys, I'm not in there. You took me out of there.
Wow.
You started your own group chat because you didn't want the green bubbles.
Is it time for Teams? Time for Microsoft Teams for the...
It's a great point. Teams, we use that here in the building. WhatsApp is another option. But nobody, so I always get information like second or third. And I know you are a fellow Android user.
Yep.
So I'm sure you have this same problem.
Well, it's funny because like everyone else I know, every single other person except for you is also iPhone. I just never get invited to group chats.
I despise the idea of group chats in general. I think they're overrated.
Yes.
I think most of the time you don't need a group chat for something.
Way too many alerts.
Right, exactly. I'm getting way too many notifications. There are half of the time, probably 75% of the stuff in the group chat doesn't actually pertain to what the formation of the group chat was about.
Yes.
And now you're just bogging me down with notifications, things that don't matter to me. And I'm sorry, I don't care. I have way too many other important things to do. But this is important. This is a group chat. I am one of the coaches.
Yes.
We make important decisions together as a group. And I've been cut out of the communication.
Guess you got to spend $1,000+
I'm not
on
doing
an
it.
iPhone.
I'm not doing it. I'm not buying an iPhone.
Oh,
I think group chats mostly are overrated. And mostly they devolve into chaos.
Yeah, they don't work half the time.
This is one group chat I'd like to be involved in, but because I'm an Android user, I have been...
Well, the second that you make that transition over to Apple, I promise you it will go downhill.
I'm sure. Listen, the moment I get an iPhone, which will never happen, I don't own a single Apple product. But the moment if it did happen, somebody else in the group would then change, and then we'd have the same problem.
Well, we found a better alternative just now as soon as you spent all that money.
I'm not doing it. I'm not spending that kind of money on an inferior product. But I'll tell you, I'm a little upset that I was taken out of the group chat.
That makes sense.
And then everyone else forgets that I'm not in the group chat. You know who doesn't forget that they're not in the group chat? Me. I don't forget that.
Every day you're reminded.
I'm like, because I'm constantly given the heads up that, oh, yeah, we talked about this already. I completely just sidetracked us because I really don't want to talk about this basketball team anymore.
No, come on. It's fun.
I'm sure you're tired of listening to me talk about said basketball team. Because the Suns will start another stretch tonight. They will end a road trip tonight when they take on Memphis. As we sit here today, they are 27-30, 2 games back of the Sacramento Kings for the 10 spot in the Western Conference play-in tournament. I use this phrase on the show quite a bit. We'll break it out here again. This next stretch for the Phoenix Suns, because I don't know if you're looking at the schedule in the same way that I am. Maybe you're just taking it day by day. And you just wake up, you check your phone, whether it's an Apple or an Android product, you are checking the ESPN ticker or you're checking in the newspaper of who the Suns play and you don't know what's coming up on the schedule. You're just taking it one game at a time with this basketball team. And I can't blame you for wanting to take it one game at a time, not looking too far ahead, considering this team, there is nothing that is a given. There is nothing that you can put in the bank as a just guarantee. Couldn't beat Toronto over the weekend. Barely got by Chicago. Couldn't beat San Antonio. There's nothing that is a certainty when it comes to talking about this basketball team. But I look at this stretch for the Phoenix Suns that starts tonight, And it is a stretch that is bookended by 2 Memphis games. They're at Memphis tonight on the 25th, and they end this stretch that I'm looking at on Monday, March 10th, when they're in Memphis again. This 8-game stretch, to me, is the entire season for the Phoenix Suns. This is Last Chance Saloon. This is the last moment for this team to be relevant. They are fighting for their playoff lives. We all think it's an uphill battle. We know that this team is not playing well against anybody. It doesn't matter who you put in front of them, what opponent they're playing, where they're playing. Everything is difficult. Everything is a struggle. Couldn't beat Toronto, barely got by Chicago. This Memphis team that you're playing tonight, you've struggled with all season. Doesn't matter the opponent, everything's difficult. Even the wins, there's nothing about it that comes easy. There's no taking the foot off the gas in the fourth quarter and emptying the bench because you've put the game away. That doesn't exist for the Phoenix Suns. Everything is difficult. And when you're a 500 basketball team, that's kind of what you sign up for. You sign up for things being incredibly difficult. Sometimes it works for you, but sometimes it doesn't, and you just run out of gas at the end of the road. This 8-game stretch for the Phoenix Suns is Last Chance Saloon. They play Memphis tonight, then they close this 8-game stretch that I'm talking about at Memphis on March 10th. I'm going to read you the games that they played during the stretch and tell me that if they, and it's possible, but if they go on a lengthy losing streak here, the season's going to be over. They're going to be too far behind. There's going to be too much ground to make up. At Memphis, back-to-back home games later this week against New Orleans, home against Minnesota, home against the Clippers, at Denver, at Dallas, at Memphis. This is it. This is it. If they play the way that they've been playing all year, none of these games are a guarantee. Not a single one of them you can say is a victory. But I look at this, and I think you can beat New Orleans both times at home. Just for the sake of this conversation. Let's play this out. That's at least 2 of the 8. Is there another one of those games? 2 against Memphis, Minnesota, the Clippers, Denver, Dallas. Is there any one of these other games that you would say that the Suns are going to get? That you trust them to get? And I don't even know if we trust them to win the 2 New Orleans games, but those are the only 2 that I'm even willing to entertain to give them. Minnesota, LA, Denver, Dallas, 2 games against Memphis. That's tough. This could be it. They have to basically play around 500 basketball. They have to fight for their playoff lives. If they only win 2 games in this 8-game stretch, they go 2-6, they fall 7 games below 500, it's over. I don't care who you play. I don't care how good or bad Sacramento is. I don't care that Sacramento has the second hardest schedule behind you the rest of the way and they could keep it close. You go 2-6 in this stretch, you fall 7 games below 500, it's over. There will be no belief left. I'd argue there isn't a lot of belief left, but maybe there's a small sliver of hope. So here is the question. Who is going to step up right now? This is it. This is the season. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Coach Bud, everybody involved with this team. This is it. This 8-game stretch is going to... Don't look ahead to when they face Milwaukee and Boston and Minnesota and Houston and Milwaukee and Boston, that tough stretch towards the tail end of the season. Don't look at that. That is centuries away compared to what they're going to do over these next 8 games. Because by the time they get there, it could be all over. It's already a disappointment that this team is even in this situation. It would be even more magnified if we get to a spot where they're basically already mathematically eliminated and there are double-digit games left in the season. Could you imagine a world where we're talking about a Phoenix Suns team that has 10 to 15 games left to go and it's over? We know they're done. We know there's no chance they're making the playoffs, no chance they're making the play-in tournament. What an embarrassment that would be if that conversation has to be had. It would already be bad enough if you get eliminated on one of the last 2 days of the regular season. Not making the play-in tournament is already embarrassing enough, but then to go a step further and say with 10 or 15 games to go, you're not even in it then, this is it. This is Last Chance Saloon. So who is going to step up? Because there's not just playoffs on the line. There's pride, there's reputation, there's futures on the line. We all think Kevin Durant's future with the Phoenix Suns is all but locked in, that he's going to be moving somewhere in the summer. I don't know if I can say the same about Devin Booker right now. I don't know if I can say the same about Coach Bud. I don't know if I can say the same for this front office, other members of the coaching staff, other pieces that are a part of this team. You are playing for your playoff lives. You are playing for pride, you are playing for reputation, and you are playing for your future. If nobody chooses to step up and to take on the leadership mantle and to try to will this team to at least still being relevant over these final 20-some-odd games, if nobody is willing to do that, if nobody steps into that void, then I would make the argument when we get to the summer, we need to have a full-blown conversation of completely hitting the reset button. Everything goes. Strip the entire thing down. Coaches, players, that includes Devin Booker, front office, just a complete and total reset. If you can't step up now in these 8 games, then maybe you don't deserve to see the next iteration of this team through if you're Devin Booker, if you're Coach Bud, if you're Bradley Beal, if you're James Jones. If this team can't do this, then you have built and coached and played as a very flawed group. So who is it going to be? Who is going to step up? Will anybody step up? Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, you are the 3 guys that we all look to every single night. This is it. 8 games to determine how big of an embarrassment you're going to be. So where's the pride? You have reputations to uphold in this league. This is it. It starts tonight. Will anybody step up? And the fact that we are this many games into the season and the situation is this dire, and I'm asking that question, and there is not an immediate answer that you can think of. I asked that question to you, and you probably debated on who the answer is, if somebody's going to step up. That's the problem with the Phoenix Suns in 2024 and 2025. Nobody has stepped up when these situations have presented themselves. Here it is, the last chance. These 8 games, somebody has to step up. 480-864-1060, your way to hop into the program. You can also do so via the YouTube live stream, KDUS AM 1060. Over there, we've got the live YouTube chat where you can have your thoughts mentioned on the air. But coming up on the other side of the break, we've spent a lot of time talking about free agency and trades when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals and their offseason. There's a person in-house that they may sign to a new contract. What might a Trey McBride extension look like? That's next on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060.
Check out KDUS AM 1060 on 100.7 KSLX HD2. That's right, HD radio on 100.7 channel number 2.
Hosier presents the Unreal Unearthed Tour 2025, live in Phoenix. Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater, October 7th. With special guest, Amble. Get tickets now at livenation.com. The #1 album, Unreal Unearthed, is available everywhere. For more, visit hosier.com.
When you help St. Mary's Food Bank feed Arizona families in need, it feeds something in you too. It feels great knowing you're helping others put food on the table. And it feels like nothing to your wallet. Because you get a $1 Arizona charitable tax credit, up to $938. So donate today at stmarysfoodbank.org. You feed others, and your kindness doesn't cost you a thing.
Play Monopoly Scratchers from the Arizona Lottery and bring the game to life. Pass go and collect up to $500,000. Follow the signs and take a chance to win real money and multiply your prize up to 100 times. Imagine your next big adventure with Monopoly Multiplier Scratchers from the Arizona Lottery. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro.
Only 50% of Arizonans believe their health insurance will cover them in a major medical emergency, like a car accident or an unexpected life-changing diagnosis. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona aims to change that perception. AZ Blue often takes care of more than 99% of hospital charges in major emergencies, protecting you and your family from devastating financial consequences. To learn more about how AZ Blue protects its members, head to azblue.com/true story.
If Heineken Silver was a 60-second radio ad, it'd tell you all the stuff you need to know in only 30 seconds to keep things light and refreshing. Seriously, time me. Heineken Silver, a world-class light beer that's surprisingly crisp and refreshing. Made with only premium quality ingredients and just 2.9 grams of carbs and 95 calories. All without compromising on taste. Heineken Silver. Order now at Heineken.com/silver. Must be 21 and older to purchase. Enjoy Heineken responsibly. Whew. 30 seconds. That's it. Done. Peace.
Traffic? Get your sip on. Detour to McDonald's for deliciously bold premium roast coffee. Or maybe it's time to sweeten up that mid-afternoon slump with an icy cold sweet tea. Sip up. Or get your favorite soft drink to perk up after a long day at work. Sip yourself to happiness. Right now, get any size premium roast coffee, sweet tea, or soft drink for only $1.29. When you sip a good drink from McDonald's, it's all good. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
HD Radio is here for KDUS AM 1060. Check out your favorite shows and games on 100.7 KSLX HD2.
The general manager of the Arizona Cardinals, Monty Ossenfort, meeting with the media as we speak, starting to learn a little bit of his plans for the offseason when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, what they might be prioritizing. And one of the things that I've seen come across the timeline from Omar Ruiz on the NFL Network was asked about Trey McBride, and Monty called it a priority for them this offseason, signing him to an extension, but said there's no timetable to get a deal done for Trey McBride entering the final year of that rookie contract. And could the Trey McBride contract extension be the most important thing this team does this offseason? Because we've spent a lot of time on this show. We've dedicated a lot of segments to the dream offseason for the Arizona Cardinals and different scenarios, different permutations of signing this guy or signing that guy. Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, trading for Myles Garrett. The Browns today reinforced their stance. Nothing has changed. They're not interested in trading Myles Garrett. The Raiders, their new general manager, saying that they expect Max Crosby to be there for a really long time. But we've talked about all of these different options, these different timelines that could play out for the Cardinals this offseason. But all of it has been through the focus of additions. Players outside the building currently that would be brought in to help this team. Could perhaps a Trey McBride extension be the most important thing that they do this offseason? Could it be more important than what they do throughout this offseason? Because I think the way they handled Trey McBride in this contract extension would be another example of this front office being different than the previous regime. This front office having the correct short and long-term vision and having the right priorities and not looking at this through a one-year lens, but having that 3-5-year time horizon. Because remember, this offseason, we could be having conversations right now about re-signing Budda Baker and James Conner. That is a realistic world we could be living in today, where those contract extensions with Budda Baker and James Conner don't get done in the middle of the season like they did. And we are talking about, will the Cardinals be able to re-sign their defensive leader in Budda Baker and their offensive leader and offensive captain in James Conner? But instead, a well-run, well-organized, forward-thinking front office understands, I got to get these guys locked in right now. I have to take this off the table. There's a lot of work to do in the offseason. There's other players I got to re-sign. There's free agency I got to attack. I have to focus on the draft. There's a lot of roster overhaul on a year-to-year basis. I don't want to add to that trouble. I don't want to add to that stress by having Budda Baker and James Conner, not only two big names, but two leaders of my team, two of the more important players on my team. I'd hate to now have to add that to the bucket of things that I have to work on this offseason. So you know what? Monty and company didn't even let it get to this point. They signed those guys during the year. Trey McBride's no different. We said this the moment the season was over. Budda done, James done, now it's Trey's turn. Trey McBride's going to be the next guy that gets an extension. He's going to have that deal signed, sealed, delivered before he steps foot on the field week 1 of the regular season. It's going to be done. Cardinals are not going to mess around. They've shown it to you. They've showed you the playbook. They've showed you the roadmap. If we believe a player fits our core, if we believe a player fits our identity of this football team, and he's a good football player, Trey McBride, a very good football player, very important to what this team does offensively. The number one option at times for this team. Him and Marvin Harrison Jr. create quite the duo. You don't let that guy get anywhere near free agency. You get that long-term contract extension done. So what might it look like? I was poking around on Spotrac this morning, looking at Trey McBride and looking at the market value and looking at the comps and TJ Hawkinson and Cole Kmet and a bunch of guys that were around the same age, similar productions that ended up getting deals. And the way Spotrac broke it down is it was a 4-year deal around $18 million a season. I think they had it at like 17.8. So I ask you this, would that be worth it to you? Is that too much for Trey McBride? Is $17.8 million too much for Trey McBride? Could it come at a cost? Could signing Trey McBride to that contract extension come at a cost to the Arizona Cardinals? See, this is where, if you have a general manager that you trust, if you have a general manager that you believe in, you don't worry about these things. You don't worry about a $17.8 million a year tight end because you know the contract is going to be structured in the right way. Travis Kelce just got paid $17 million. TJ Hawkinson on his deal got 16.5. 17.8, that feels like it's a little bit on the higher end for Trey McBride. But that's what Spotrac says the market value is. Now, because you're signing him to an extension, you might be able to get a little bit of a deal there. Maybe you have him come in at $15, $16 million, but we've told you the next future of tight end. There was Kelce, Kittle, Hawkinson, right? The big three at tight end. We've talked about the new big three at tight end. We've talked about Sam Laporta. We've talked about Brock Bowers. And I think Trey McBride also needs to be involved in that conversation. So these three guys are going to reset the market. They are going to reset what this number might look like. And so maybe it's $17 million. Remember, Travis Kelce just signed a deal that averaged $17.1 million a year. I don't worry about what the number looks like. Here's why. Because I trust in this front office and this regime to structure the contract in a way to where the cap number might be different on a year-to-year basis, and the cash might be different on a year-to-year basis, and the signing bonus and what's guaranteed and how they structure it. I believe they are going to put together a contract structure that allows them to still do everything they want this offseason, that still allows them to maximize this window that they're in. If you have a general manager that you believe in, if you have a front office that you believe in, then you think they will structure a deal in the correct way to where this isn't going to be the only thing that they do. Because on paper, $17.9 million, which is what Spotrac says the market value is for Trey McBride. Let's just call it $16 or $17 million. Let's just not have him reset the market. Let's just have him remain within what the upper bounds have been of the tight end market. That's $17 million that you're allocating this offseason of the 50, 60 that you're going to have. It's a decent chunk. But I trust in this front office to structure it to where it's not going to take up $17 million of money that they have available to them this offseason. It'll take up less because of the way they structure the bonus, the way they structured the money guaranteed at signing, the way they structure the back parts of the deal. That's where I don't have a concern that it comes at a cost. I don't think it is a and or. I don't think it is a you can sign Trey McBride or do X, Y, and Z. I think you can do both because I believe in a front office to structure the deal in the correct way. I believe in a front office that is already thinking ahead on this, just like they did with Budda Baker, just like they did with James Conner. They didn't let it get to a point where these guys even were tempted to hit free agency and sign someplace else. Those two guys signed in the middle of the season. Right there, right on the doorstep of free agency. And they signed extensions. Why? The Cardinals put competitive offers in front of them. They like being here. They want to be here. They signed. The same thing is going to happen with Trey McBride. But it is going to come at a pretty penny because I think Trey McBride is going to usher in the new era of tight end because he's first up. Laporta will be next. And then it'll be Brock Bowers after him. These three guys are going to reset the tight end market. So if I'm the Cardinals, I'm happy that I'm coming up first here because I don't know what it's going to look like when Laporta asks for his deal. I don't know what it's going to look like when Brock Bowers asks for his deal. So get this done. Get this locked in. When you have young players that you believe in, locked in, long-term, it just gives you so much more flexibility because you know. It's a guarantee. Every single year, I've got this guy at this position. Done deal. I don't have to worry about the market. I don't have to worry about what other tight ends are getting. I've got my guy locked in. So it's going to cost a pretty penny. I think it's going to reset the market because I think Trey McBride is going to usher in the next era of tight ends cashing in. And it's all about timing in this league. when you hit free agency. Trey McBride's not even going to get a chance to hit free agency. That might come at a cost for the Cardinals. They might have to pay a little bit of a premium. I don't know if there's going to be a team-friendly discount. They might have to pay a little bit more so that he doesn't hit free agency. But good front offices are thinking ahead. Good front offices are thinking about these things way ahead of time, and you can tell that the Cardinals know that this is a priority, and this might be the most important thing they do this offseason because it gives them stability. They're still going to do a lot of other things to improve their roster. Don't worry, a Trey McBride extension is not going to come at the sacrifice of them not being able to do something else. But getting this done, it helps the 2026 offseason, the 2027 offseason, those future offseasons where I don't have to worry about having a premier tight end in my offense. I don't have to worry about having a number one wide receiver because I drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., and when the time comes, I'll give him an extension. Good forward-thinking front offices are always looking 4, 5, 6 moves ahead, looking 2, 3 years down the road. I have full trust and faith in this front office that they're thinking this way. You saw it with the way that they did the James Conner and the Budda Baker situations, and I don't think Trey McBride is going to be any different. But it's going to come at a number that might be some sticker shock to a lot of you. But don't worry, because I don't think it's going to impact anything that they'll be able to do this offseason. And again, a new deal that they sign right now might only kick in next year. They might increase his money a little bit this year, but it would only kick in after next year. So it doesn't really impact what you're going to do this year. Doesn't change what you're going to do because it's going to be structured in the right way. He might get a little bit of a raise this year as part of an extension. But then you're talking next year and beyond. Coming up on the other side of the break, we wrap up our number one of the program. Two teams, two very similar visions, two very similar directions, both still looking to break through. We'll talk about that next. It's the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060.
Need social information about KDUS AM 1060? Try KDUS1060.com, at KDUS AM 1060 on Twitter, and Facebook.com/KDUS AM 1060.
Ghost World Tour 2025. Ghost, theatrical, heavy metal, arena rock. August 11th, Footprint Center. Tickets on sale now at LiveNation.com. Don't miss Ghost.
Hey, Mike Barrow from Barrow's Pizza here. The way we see it, family isn't just a cherished thing, it's everything. For us, that starts with our Grandma Angelina's family recipes, brought over from Sarconi, Italy. Like our sweet and tangy pizza sauce, 100% real mozzarella, and our fresh dough made every morning. And because every Barrow's is family-owned, never franchised, we personally make sure the quality's there at every location. So stop in and give Barrow's Pizza a try. It's authentic food from our family to yours.
Did you know that Harrah's Auction Casino is your key to nationwide fun? That's right. You'll unlock perks at more than 50 destinations from coast to coast at your local home for Caesars Rewards. Free dining in Atlantic City? Yes. Free slot play in Maricopa? You bet. Free hotel stays in New Orleans? Oh, yeah. What are you waiting for? Harrah's Auction Casino. Play for all. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Know when to stop before you start. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 or 1-800-NEXT STEP. Visit the Caesars Reward Center for details.
Let me introduce y'all to my canes. We got chicken fingers. They hit the spot, baby. Fries are golden crispy, Texas toast crunchy, and they cane sauce creamy rich. One love.
Wish your school better fit your needs? Switching to Primavera Online mid-year is easy. Enjoy a flexible online education from the comfort and safety of home, plus exclusive benefits like free private tutoring and merit awards for college and more. Enroll at chooseprimavera.com.
With the Dan Patrick Show brightens your mood to work. The DP Show airs live weekdays from 7 to 10 right here on KDUS AM 1060, 100.7 HD2, and KDUS1060.com.
Two teams, two very similar visions and identities. And yet those two teams are the subject of one important conversation. Who has been the bigger disappointment? We touched on this a little bit during yesterday's show. Tim Bontemps over at ESPN wrote a story asking NBA executives a bunch of different burning questions in the NBA. How's Luka going to fit in LA with the Lakers long term? Who's going to get the second spot in the Eastern Conference, who's going to make the play-in tournament. But one of the other ones, and we briefly touched on it, I want to expand on it here today on the show. Who's been a bigger disappointment? The Philadelphia 76ers and the Phoenix Suns. And these two teams are more intertwined than maybe the general public thinks. And I think you know where I'm going with this, everybody, because the 76ers attempted to build in a way that was lengthy. It was painful. It asked a lot of their fans. They asked their fan base. They asked the Philadelphia sports community. And let's face it, Philadelphia sports fans are not patient. They don't want to wait. Phillies, Eagles, 76ers, Flyers, they want to see results there in Philly. They will light up the phone lines in Philadelphia sports radio the moment they think a coach, a player, a GM needs to get out of there because they are not seeing the immediate results. Philadelphia asked that fan base, that energetic, loud, emotional, reactionary fan base, to trust the process. We're going to be bad for a really long time. We're going to stink for a couple of years. We're going to pick towards the top of the draft. But we're going to get Joel Embiid, and we're going to draft Ben Simmons, and it's all going to be worth it because we are going to have sustained success in the Eastern Conference, and we're going to win a championship. This pain will be worth it once we can see this through. And when you're down and you think it's not working and you think that it was a mistake, remind yourself, trust the process. That's what Philly tried to do. We saw a similar version of that here in Phoenix. What did Phoenix do? They followed the timeline. Couldn't take trust the process. That was trademark. That was being used by Philadelphia. So they had their own version of it. That version, follow the timeline. We've got Devin Booker. This is going to be painful for a little bit. We're going to add Mikal Bridges. We're going to draft Josh Jackson. But follow the timeline. Watch what we turn this into. DeAndre Ayton, we just give us time. We're going to break through. Two teams, two similar visions, two different slogans, but two teams that bet their entire future on building things within, building things with draft picks, building things through being bad, being in the lottery, picking towards the top, and getting young players under team control and building that way. And it didn't work. It didn't work for both of those teams. So what did they do? Both teams pivoted, and both teams pivoted in a similar way. In Philadelphia, first it was James Harden, then it was Paul George. For Phoenix, first it was Chris Paul, then it was Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. So at first, they followed the timeline, trusted the process, draft picks, young players, development. That's the route we're going to take. It's going to be painful, it's going to be long, but it's going to be worth it on the other side. Wasn't worth it. Neither team could win a championship. Then they went a different direction. They went veterans, veteran stars, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, James Harden, Paul George. And look at where both teams are right now. Joel Embiid might be done for the year in Philadelphia. So who is the bigger disappointment between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Phoenix Suns? Any other year, any other season, a team that is going to pay over $450 million in salary and taxes, that is right now out of the play-in tournament picture, would be considered the biggest disappointment. They would have the crown all to themselves. Yet this year, the 76ers would like a word. They don't want to be forgotten in all of this because they added Paul George. They signed him to that deal because they thought that that was the missing piece. They thought that that was going to be the thing that took them over the top. Where do they sit right now? They are 20-37, not in the playoff picture. Now, they've got some nice pieces. Tyrese Maxey is a nice piece. Joel Embiid, when he's healthy, is a nice piece. But Paul George, it has not worked out the way that they wanted it to. So who is the bigger disappointment? To me, it's pretty easy. It's the team that's going to spend over $450 million, or close to that amount, in salaries and taxes. Philadelphia is not spending that much money. Philadelphia didn't go into the second apron and limit everything that they did. Philadelphia is not on their third coach in 3 years. Philadelphia didn't get to 2 wins away from the NBA Finals and has watched it slowly spiral downward. Philadelphia has not had the health of their star players the way Phoenix has had the health of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker this year. Joel Embiid's missed time left and right. They're thinking about shutting him down for the year. Hasn't been healthy. The expectations between the two teams, I think, was a little different. But when you spend the kind of money that Phoenix has spent and Matt Ishbia has spent on this team, and you are 3 games below 500 and you are not a play-in tournament team, how are you not the runaway favorite to be the biggest disappointment in the league this year? The only reason why you're not is because the 76ers are also a big disappointment. 17 games below 500. An absolute disaster. An MVP in Joel Embiid. Paul George, superstar player. That was supposed to be the thing that took you over the top. You have Maxey. You have McLean. You have a nice core of young players along with some established superstars in Embiid and Paul George. You're supposed to be with Boston and with Cleveland and with the Knicks in the top part of the Eastern Conference. Not to say that you're going to win it, not to say that you're going to break through and win a championship, but you should still be in the mix. 2 teams following the same process, made the same 2 pivots, and they both sit in the same exact spot. They're both looking at 10 other teams that are going to represent the conference in the playoffs. Both of those teams might be planning early vacations. Both of those teams might undergo major resets this summer. So what's the tiebreaker? The team that's spending $450 million on their team this year. The team that doubled down in the summertime. The team that might be going on to their 4th coach in 4 years. The team that might see Kevin Durant and Devin Booker walk out the door. How are you this bad with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker? How is it possible that you're 3 games below 500? These 2 teams are very similar, and they're somewhat of a warning sign for the rest of the league. There isn't one specific way to build a championship team. Oklahoma City, Cleveland, Minnesota, Boston, those are 4 teams that we can talk about as potentially the Final 4 of the NBA. All built somewhat differently. Oklahoma City, draft and develop, landed SGA, but that wasn't a big-time move. That's not like the Cavs when they got Donovan Mitchell. Minnesota, they kind of did both. Drafted, developed Anthony Edwards, had Karl Anthony Towns, but then went out and made a big-time trade for Rudy Gobert. There are multiple ways to build your team in the NBA. So here's the warning sign. The way the Suns did it, the way the 76ers did it, what did it get them? Did it get them the sustained success that they were looking for? Did the pain pay off? Was it worth it? Did it get these teams to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Or are they about to go back to the place that they were when they started following the timeline? Or when they started trusting the process? I don't want to follow a timeline anymore. I don't want to trust the process. I just want to build a winner. And there are multiple ways to build that winner. But this Phoenix Suns team, a way bigger disappointment. With the amount of money and resources that has been spent on this team, not just this year, but for the last couple of years, to not even sniff a Western Conference Finals, yeah, they're the biggest disappointment. Hour number 1 of the program in the books. To start hour number 2, how about some NFL draft talk? The Titans trading the number 1 pick. Next, KDUS AM 1060.
AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix.
The Valley of the Sun will roar to life this spring because NASCAR is coming to Phoenix, and it's going to be a weekend of good vibes the whole family won't forget. NASCAR weekend at Phoenix Raceway, March 7th through the 9th. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
Don't be fooled by the people you meet on social media. It may start as an innocent conversation, but anyone who tries to sell you pills is nothing more than a drug dealer. And if you think tiny pills can't do much harm, think again. Fentanyl can end it all. Know the truth about fentanyl at learnmoreaz.org. Don't be fooled. Don't be faked out. Visit learnmoreaz.org. This message is sponsored by the Substance Abuse Coalition Leaders of Arizona.
9 Inch Nails. Live at Footprint Center, September 16th. Get tickets now at NIN.com. 9 Inch Nails, live in Phoenix. Peel It Back World Tour 2025.
A noisy garage door is a cry for help that often requires only simple maintenance. However, if left untreated, could lead to costly repairs. Hi, I'm Tommy Mello from A1 Garage Door Service. Don't wait until a simple garage door repair becomes a major problem. If your garage door is noisy, if bugs are getting in, or if it struggles to open, your garage door is in need of repair. From simple repairs to upgrades, it's A1 from day one. We fix garage doors fast and with quality parts designed to last a lifetime. Our springs, rollers, and openers are tested by running them up and down, open and closed, all day, 24/7, so you can feel confident with every A1 garage door repair. Replacing the bottom rubber on your garage door can have a huge impact on the number of bugs you see in your garage and in your home. Keep those creepy crawlers outside by calling A1 Garage Door Service today and receive the best service, best parts, and best warranty in the industry.
A1Garage.com. A1 from day one.
Call today and take advantage of our $29.95 tune-up special.
I was in a wreck. I need a check.
I was in a wreck. I need a check.
I was in a wreck. I need a check.
I'm attorney Kevin Rowe. Being in an auto accident is traumatic. You need to call the best law firm that has the experience to get you the best results. Call 977-1900. That's 977-1900.
is the way to go. Call 977-1900. 977-1900.
AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix.
Welcome back in hour number 2 of the program. We appreciate you being here. The lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. One more hour of the program to go. Make sure you download the KDUS AM 1060 app so you can take us with you on the go wherever you get your apps. I know we had a Android Apple thing in hour number 1. Not going to do that here. It's available on both. So whatever device you have, there's no green bubbles or blue bubbles when it comes to the KDUS AM 1060 app. You're
and
good.
Podcasts as well.
Right, podcast. No worries about green bubbles or blue bubbles over there. So just download the KDUS AM 1060 app today, and you can take us with you on the go. I warned you yesterday. I told you that this is kind of that week where you get a bunch of news dumped on you. Just a lot of stuff happens. You put all these people under one roof for an entire week. Coaches, GMs, player personnel people, scouts, media members, everybody, all under one roof. You can't help but spill the beans. You can't help but have these conversations. You can't help but answer questions and it generate a news cycle. And the Tennessee Titans certainly fed the fire today because they said that they would not rule out trading the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. So that leads me to ask this question. Is the 2025 draft about to be the 2016 draft? Is it going to be the 2023 draft? Or is it going to just be like last year's draft where everybody stays and we see quarterbacks go at the top with the first 2 picks, with Tennessee and Cleveland both getting their franchise quarterback or who they think is going to be their franchise quarterback of the future? Which draft is it? Is it last year's? Is it 2023? Or is it 2016? What do I mean by that? You might be asking. Well, in 2023, we saw the team that had the number 1 overall pick, the Chicago Bears, trade that pick. They rolled out the red carpet And they allowed somebody else to come up and get their franchise quarterback. They and the Carolina Panthers struck a deal that allowed Carolina to come all the way up to pick Bryce Young. What did Chicago get back in that deal? They got back the 9th and 61st overall picks in 2023. They got a 2024 first, which turned out to be Caleb Williams. And then they got a 2025 second-round pick and wide receiver DJ Moore. An absolute haul for a team to come up from 9 to 1. So New Orleans, you're thinking of coming up from the number 9 spot to take a quarterback to completely change the NFL draft? It might cost you a pick swap, a second-round pick in 2 straight years, a first-round pick, and a talented player. That might be what it costs for you to move up and get your quarterback. You're the Jets at 7. You're the Raiders at 6. This is what you're going to have to compete with. This is the most recent example we have of a team coming up to the number 1 spot to land a quarterback. That's the price. So if this is 2023 and Tennessee's open for business and one team's coming up, that is the going rate. But it also could be the 2016 draft. Do you know who had the number 1 and number 2 picks in the 2016 draft? Tennessee picked number 1. Cleveland picked number 2. You know who picks number 1 and number 2 this year? Tennessee picks number 1. Cleveland picks number 2. You know what happened the last time these two teams picked 1 and 2 back in 2016? They both traded their picks, rolled out the red carpet for other teams to take their quarterback. The Rams came up to get Jared Goff. The Eagles came up to get Carson Wentz. Tennessee, Cleveland rolled out the red carpet, got out of the way, let other teams come up and get their quarterbacks. So is this going to be history not repeating itself but rhyming from 2016 with both of those teams getting out of the way, allowing the Giants, allowing the Jets, the Raiders, the Saints, somebody else we're not discussing right now to come all the way up to get their quarterback? Is just Tennessee open for business right now? Or is this just going to be like last year's draft, where everybody just stays in their spot, everybody just picks a quarterback, and we just move along the board? There is so much uncertainty at the top of this draft right now because we don't know what Tennessee's thinking. We don't know where they might be going. They're not ruling it out. They've said they've taken calls. We know they've used the term, we're not going to pass on a generational talent at the number 1 pick. I read into that Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. I didn't read into that quote as quarterback. Other people have read it differently, and I understand their interpretation of it. But there is uncertainty at the top of this draft class. It makes the draft that much more fun when you don't know what a team is doing at number 1. It increases the drama. Any day now, if a team wants to strike and move up to the number 1 pick, it could come out of nowhere. Certainly possible. And the uncertainty flows downward through the rest of the draft, flows all the way to the Cardinals picking at 16. This is why I've spoken so strongly about the idea of trading the 16th overall pick. It is different than when they've had top 5 picks in the last couple years' draft. So many things have to go right for you to get the one specific player you might be targeting. Pick whoever your favorite player is in this draft class. Maybe you don't have one yet. Maybe you're late to the draft party. Don't worry. We've got you covered here on the program. We'll get you up to speed on who might be available for the team at 16. But let's say you've got a guy that you want. Do you know how specific things have to fall for that guy to get to you at 16? It's different when you're picking 3 or picking 4. Much more likely that your guy gets to you. Much more likely that you have multiple guys that you like inside the top 5, the top 10. It is why I'm much more open, even in a year where they have less draft capital than they have had since Monty has taken over as the general manager, why I'm more inclined to move that pick if it allows me to land Myles Garrett, if it allows me to land an impact defender. if I can swing that and get a player that I think makes me better in 2025 and beyond. I am much more open to trading the 16th overall pick than I ever was trading the 4th overall pick last year. Way more open to moving that pick. Think it should be a very realistic possibility and scenario that gets looked into. You just don't know who's going to be there when you pick at 16. You don't know what Tennessee's going to do. What if they trade down multiple times and teams hop in front of you? What if a player starts to fall and a team that's picking 17 or 18 right behind you jumps all the way up to 12 and takes a guy? You just don't know how these things are going to play out. The further down the board you pick, the more random and the more lucky you have to be for your guy to get to you at 16. If I can turn 16 into a sure thing, if I can turn 16 right now into a player that I know is going to contribute for me, rather than guessing that a certain player or group of players gets to me at 16 on draft night, I'll take the sure thing. And the Titans might be looking at the same thing. They might be looking at this and saying, you know what? We can get out of this spot. We can set ourselves up with a pick this year, still in a good spot, get a good player, have picks for down the road. We're not ready to win right now. We're a couple years away. So what good does it do us to get the quarterback right now? Maybe we're not sold on these quarterbacks. Maybe we don't love Cam Ward. Maybe we don't love Shedeur Sanders. And so let's reset. Let's get future assets. So if something happens in next offseason and we want to trade for a player, we can do that. Or we need to move up. We've got 2 first-round picks in order to move up to get our quarterback. We really want Arch Manning. We can do that. Flexibility, right? Tennessee might be looking at this and saying, I want to create maximum flexibility for myself. I don't love these quarterbacks. I can still get an impactful player if I move down a couple of spots. If I move down to 3 and I let the Giants come up, I move down to 6 and I let the Raiders come up, 7, the Jets, 9, the Saints. If I let any one of these teams come up, I'm still getting a top 10 player. I'm getting future picks. I'm getting additional picks in this year's draft. And I might also get a player out of the deal. And I might be able to kickstart my rebuild and do way more than I could have if I just stayed in the number 1 spot and picked Abdul Carter or picked Cam Ward or picked Shedeur Sanders, even though I didn't really love these quarterbacks. The Titans have an opportunity here to flip the draft on its head because a lot of teams would call, a lot of teams would make offers, and if 1 and 2 are both available and we're dealing with a 2016 situation, you have the Giants that probably want to secure their spot in the top 2. The Raiders are looking at a quarterback. The Jets said today in their media availability that they're open to coming up from 7. You got a lot of teams that would light up the phones if you made number 1 and number 2 available. So is this just going to be like 2024 where everybody stays, picks quarterbacks, and it's relatively chalky? I think the first 5 or 6 picks were relatively chalky last year. Pretty easy to predict where things were going to go on draft night. Or is this going to be the 2023 draft where one team comes up and lands who they think their franchise quarterback is? Or is this nearly a decade ago in 2016 where Tennessee and Cleveland were picking towards the top and they got out of the way? They said, we don't love these quarterbacks. We're not ready for this. We are getting out of the way. We'll let somebody else make that decision. And they allowed the Rams to come up to get Jared Goff. I almost said the Lions to come up and get Jared Goff. And the Eagles to come up and get Carson Wentz. We could be seeing a rerun of the 2016 draft. We also could see a rerun of the 2023 draft. That's the power that Tennessee has right now. And don't think just because the Cardinals aren't in the business right now of landing a quarterback, this doesn't affect them. One domino falls. One team, we'll use the Jets as an example. The Jets love Cam Ward. The Jets want to move up to number 1 to get Cam Ward. If they can't move up to get Cam Ward, they might pick somebody else. They might pick somebody that the Saints want at 9. That player might be the player that the Cardinals want at 16. You see how the dominoes quickly fall if the Jets can't move up from 7 to 1 to get Cam Ward? If the Giants want one of these 2 quarterbacks, they can't make a deal to move up to 1 and 2. Quarterbacks go 1 and 2. They're picking 3. Now, all of a sudden, a team that's going to pick a quarterback isn't going to pick a quarterback. That domino cascades through the rest of the first round. Nothing is certain for the Cardinals at 16. Nothing's certain at all unless you're picking number 1. But at least when you're picking number 4 last year, you had a pretty good idea that Marvin Harrison Jr. would get there to them at 4. You have no idea who's going to be available when they pick at 16 this year. Not a clue. So the Titans have a chance here to completely flip the entire NFL draft upside down. And they appear willing to listen. They appear willing to be rolling out the red carpet if a team can make it worth their while. Coming up on the other side of the break, it's going to be the end of a road trip tonight. Do the Suns have a surprise in them? That's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060.
Your caddy, Ray Adams, takes you beyond the 18th hole on Saturday mornings with Great American Golf from 6 to 7 a.m. on KDUS AM 1060.
Let me ask you a question. What's worse? A lawyer throwing on a leather jacket to try to convince people that he rides, or a lawyer standing up saying he fights for the motorcycle community when he's never gone to court for them once? Hi, I'm Mark Breyer.
And I'm Alexis Breyer. We're the husband and wife law team. And everybody in the motorcycle community knows the husband and wife law team for decades has been promoting motorcycle safety. And we show up in court to fight for you. Call the husband and wife law team first.
Shinedown. Dance Kid Dance Tour. Live in Phoenix. Footprint Center, Saturday, August 2nd. With special guests, Bush and Morgan Wade. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Shinedown, live in concert. For more, visit shinedown.com.
The Renaissance Festival is back. Weekends now through March 30th. Be ready to have a great time. Amazing adventure awaits the entire family. New shows, shopping, jousting nights, non-stop feasting. Leave your cares behind. Happiness reigns at the Renaissance Festival. It's fun and affordable. You'll love the Renaissance. Visit now through March 30th. Discount tickets available at Bashers' and Food City or online at arizona.renfestinfo.com. Presented by Delta Airlines, Bashers', Food City, Pepsi, Budweiser, and Guinness. Huzzah!
Are you tired of seeing rust stains in your sinks? Call Culligan. Or scrubbing hard water scale buildup from your fixtures. Call Culligan. We can customize whole home solutions to address common water worries found in Phoenix. And now, for a limited time, you can get better water at every tap in your home for $0 down, no payments, and no interest for 6 months. Problem water is no problem for Culligan. Contact your local water expert today. Contaminants may not be in your water. Dealer participation may vary. See dealer for details.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. The Rams enter the offseason with significant uncertainties. Star quarterback Matthew Stafford now 37, rumored to be a trade candidate. Cooper Kupp appears to be slowing down at 31. Over his last 5 games, he managed just 96 yards, an uncharacteristic drop for the team's star receiver. The potential loss of these 2 franchise icons raises serious questions about the Rams, but if any team can rebuild on the fly, it's the Rams. Despite rarely owning their first-round pick, their eye for talent is nearly unmatched. Late-round standouts Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua have emerged as offensive weapons, while former third-round pick Kobe Turner and Byron Young combined for 15.5 sacks this season. Meanwhile, rookies Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk cemented themselves as Defensive Rookie of the Year candidates. That's not to say LA won't miss Stafford and Kupp, but when you consider their ability to draft and develop top-tier talent, this team isn't done contending just yet. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. I know what you're thinking. Football season's over. Sunday's going to feel a little emptier. Hey, keep your head up. Don't get too down, because the most exciting day of the year is coming fast. That's right, it's St. Patrick's Day, or as we like to call it, Happy Dan Patrick's Day. No better way to celebrate than with Keeper's Heart Irish American Whiskey. It's a whiskey that brings people together, just like football, but with a little more Irish charm. Crafted with Irish tradition and American spirit, it's smooth enough to sip, bold enough to mix, and guaranteed to make March 17th feel like the MVP of celebrations. So if you're missing the thrill of game day, don't worry, because the real party is just getting underway. Grab a bottle of Keeper's Heart and let's raise a glass to the best time of the year. Find Keeper's Heart at your local store or buy it online, keepersheartwhiskey.com. And you can enjoy 15% off if you use the promo code DAN25. It's DAN25, 15% off. And as always, remember to taste responsibly.
The absolute best interviews and guests. Tune into the Dan Patrick Show live weekdays from 7 to 10 a.m. on KDUS AM 1060.
I'm going to ask you to bear with me for a moment. I'm going to ask you to go with me on a journey for just a second. Because I, for this segment, am going to still believe that the Suns have playoff chances. And we haven't done this in a little bit. I haven't actually checked recently. We've given up. We had a segment here on this show where I told you what the playoff chances were, the playoff probabilities were for the Phoenix Suns. They got so bad, I just stopped doing it. Like, we just stopped altogether. I'm going to go back to it right now just to see where it's at. Phoenix Suns have a 0.9% playoff probability odds, according to the playoff probability report over at Basketball Reference. 0.9. Their projected finish this year is 36 and the numbers here say 36.3 wins, 45.7 losses. They went very, very specific with their numbers here, having them finishing 11th. So just outside of Dallas and Sacramento. They have Sacramento finishing at 41 and 41. But just for a brief moment, we're gonna talk about that 0.9% chance, okay? If they are going to stay relevant, if that 0.9% is going to grow, if they are going to somehow stay in this, they're going to need to pull off some magic tricks. Let's just call them what they are. They're going to need to surprise us. They're going to need to beat teams we don't expect them to beat. Now, I don't know how many teams I would put on the list that I expect the Suns to beat right now. You just lost to Toronto over the weekend. San Antonio before that. Barely beat Chicago. I've watched you lose to teams you have no business losing to. You play the Wizards too close, the Nets too close. I don't know how long the list of teams would be that you should beat and beat going away. I don't know how many teams would be on that list. But you're going to have to surprise us. You're going to have to beat Memphis. You're going to have to beat Dallas. You're going to have to beat the Lakers, the Clippers, the Timberwolves. You're going to have some surprises along the way. There are too many games left against good basketball teams. We have said this from the get-go. The magic number is 41. You have to get to 500. They're at 27 right now. That means they have to win 14 games the rest of the way. There are too many games against good playoff top-tier basketball teams. They're going to have to win some of those games. So surprises are going to have to be a part of this. Magic tricks are going to have to be a part of this. There are going to be times where we go into a game and we say the Suns have no chance of winning. And they win. Producer Corey, tonight, we've talked a couple of times here on the show. I've got softball tonight. The Suns play at 6 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Softball starts at 6 o'clock. So I will be laser focused in on coaching the girls tonight. I will not be paying attention to the Suns game. I will check in on it afterwards.
For sure.
Do we think that by the time I get home, when I get home, is the game going to be competitive enough? In general, the game might be over. We normally get done with practice around 8:30.
Yeah.
The Suns are supposed to tip at 6 tonight. Basketball games never start on time. They always start about 15 minutes later. So probably 6:15, 6:20 is when they'll actually put the ball in the air. Basketball games on average are about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So it's going to be close. Mm-hmm. When I get home and I fire up the DVR to watch the basketball game,
yes,
is it going to be worth it?
No.
Or is it going to be a blowout to where I can say, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah, I think this is a check your phone for the total.
So tonight's going to be an I'm good night. Tonight's going to be I've got more important things to do.
You got family.
I've got family. I'll keep tabs on it while we're at practice. But your guess, and I don't disagree with you, is that when I get home, the DVR, we can just hit erase.
Yeah, the only numbers you probably need to keep track of is if you're doing any sort of sports betting.
That's right. If my bets win tonight, not betting on the Suns tonight in any capacity. They've played this team twice already this year. They lost to Memphis back on December 31st, 117-112 at home. You'll remember that game because I screamed and almost punched the monitor here in the studio the next day. That was the game that they didn't have, Memphis did, Ja Morant or Zach Edey. Suns had every right to win that basketball game going away. Memphis didn't have Ja Morant. They didn't have Zach Edey. Didn't have their leading scorer. Didn't have one of their top rebounders. They were without the guys that make their team go, and you still lost by 5 at home. So that was back on December 31st. Then, right before the All-Star break, they lost to them 119-112 at home on February 11th. was a better effort, but they still lost. 2 games against this team this year, 2 losses. So we're asking, where are the magic tricks going to come from? Where are the surprises going to come from if this team is going to find the 14 wins they need to have the rest of the way? You'd like to think that their next 2 against New Orleans after this one can help us make that number go down from 14 to 12. But they've got to find those other 12. They've got Toronto and Chicago on their schedule. I watched you beat Chicago, not beat Toronto, so maybe there's again, the math starts to not add up here, meaning they're going to have to surprise. They're going to have to beat a Denver. They're going to have to go into Dallas and find a way to steal a basketball game. That stretch where they're against Minnesota, Boston, New York, Golden State, they have to surprise us somewhere. They have to do something that they haven't done at all through 57 games. That's it. That's the only way they get out of this. That's the only way they sneak into a play-in spot. They somehow surprise us, and Sacramento, who has the second hardest schedule the rest of the way in the NBA, also struggles, and struggles worse than the Suns struggle. And the 2 games that the Suns play against Sacramento, they sweep. That's it. There's your math. You either surprise a bunch, or the 2 games you play against Sacramento, you beat them, you close the 2-game gap, and you play 1 game better than Sacramento the rest of the way. That's it. There's your recipe. You either start surprising us, or you beat Sacramento the 2 times you play them, you steal 1 game to give yourself a little bit of a cushion, and you play the same as the Kings the rest of the way. That's it. That's how the Suns make the play-in tournament. And then they're probably a very quick exit in that play-in tournament. Is tonight going to be one of those surprises for the Phoenix Suns? Could it be one of the magic tricks that they pull out of their hat? Goes back to a question I asked in hour number 1 of the program. Is there anybody on this team that is ready to step up? Is there anybody on this team that understands? Don't feel sorry for yourself. This season has not been what you wanted it to be. You're still Kevin Durant. You're still Devin Booker. You're still Bradley Beal. You didn't forget how to play basketball. You've been terrible defensively. We got it. We've seen it. Watch these games. You are still 3 of the most talented players in the NBA. Can you act like it? Can you show it? Can you just will and effort go a long way in sports? The will and your effort level can sometimes hide deficiencies that you have as a basketball team. I question the will and the effort of this team at times. That is a bad place to be. Can you show me that effort tonight? Can you show me your willingness to do the little extra stuff? The willingness to push that much harder in the 3rd and 4th quarters. That's it. You show a better effort. You show the will, the want, that you want to make this 8-game stretch count, that you want to keep this team relevant. You can show that tonight. If you bring an effort and the willingness and the want and the drive to the arena tonight, you can beat Memphis in Memphis. You can do it. You've played them twice this year. You lost by 5 and you lost by 7. You've kept these games relatively close. And you've got 3 of the best basketball players on the planet. It is a willingness, it is a want, it is a desire, it is an effort thing. Will somebody step up and provide that effort, provide that willingness, provide that desire, and use that energy and feed it to the rest of the team? Will somebody answer that call tonight? That's how they're going to pull these surprises off. They're going to want it more than the other team on that given night. They're going to play these final 20-some-odd games like they're all playoff intensity. Toronto, Chicago over the weekend, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it against San Antonio coming out of the All-Star break when you should feel it. I didn't feel it. So we'll just continue to ask the question until either they show it or they just run out of time. Will tonight be the night that they show up with that playoff intensity? Is tonight the night they show up with it is a win or go home attitude? We don't have wiggle room anymore, so we're going to bring it every single night for 48 minutes. Is tonight going to be that night? If not, okay. We'll just move on to the next day, the next game, and we'll ask the same questions when they play New Orleans later on this week. That's how they're going to pull these surprises off. That's how they're going to pull off these magic tricks to stay in this. That's how they're going to make it to those 2 games against Sacramento that they play, one that is the last game of the regular season, that's how they're going to matter. That's how they're going to potentially be make or break this team surprising us and making the play-in tournament. So far, what we've seen, that effort's not going to show up tonight. That willingness isn't going to show up tonight. That desire is not going to show up tonight. They're not going to play with that playoff intensity that we all think they should have here over these final 20-some-odd games, 25 games to go in the regular season. With the tough schedule that's the rest of the way for this team, if they are going to pull this off, it is going to require an increase in the intensity and effort level. We'll see if they have it tonight. I'm not betting on it. Till I see it, I'm not betting on it. Coming up on the other side of the break, has a brand new name potentially emerged for the Cardinals to target this offseason? It's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060.
James Out West brings NFL, NBA, MLB, and local sports talk to you Monday night starting at 7 on KDUS AM 1060 and the KDUS 1060 app.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win, breakaway, pick six, three-point shot, underdog win, buzzer beater, shootout, walk-off, and absolutely every play in between is amazing. From football to basketball and hockey to baseball, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Arizona.
In the concert event of a lifetime, come experience the unparalleled, dynamic energy of one of the most accomplished musicians of our time, Carlos Santana. Oneness Tour 2025, Friday, April 18th, Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater. Take a trip through the hits from Woodstock to Supernatural and beyond. On sale now at LiveNation.com. Part of the America First Credit Union Concert Series.
At the Phoenix Zoo, we are the home of and which also makes us the home of Phoenix Zoo. That zoo we are. For tickets, hours, and much more, visit phoenixzoo.org.
Real stories with Hellsberg.
After we met and we started dating, Nancy and I lived 150 miles apart, and I would drive my old jalopy car, and it was roughly a 3-hour distance. It took 3 years I drove across that state, back and forth, dating her every weekend.
Persistence.
And I would have never stopped. I had a lot of energy back then, 36 years ago.
At Hellsberg, find the engagement ring worthy of your story. Designed with the love, care, and craft it deserves. Visit a Hellsberg store or hellsberg.com.
Many of you know that my inspiration for becoming an accident attorney was my brother Tim, who was rendered a quadriplegic at age 18. I didn't know what a personal injury lawyer was or what they did, but I soon did. Tim was treated terribly by the insurance company, and I became enraged. It was a constant delay and deny. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Tim later worked with me for 27 years. Last year, my hero died at age 65. You can see my eulogy for him by visiting mybrothertim.com. He was one hell of a man. Because of Tim, together we built the largest injury firm in the world, and our clients are treated the way I would want my family to be treated. At Morgan & Morgan, nobody is a nobody and everybody is a somebody. If you need our help, visit forthepeople.com on your phone or computer. See you soon, Tim. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
Injured? Dial # law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
The Dan Patrick Show improves your mornings. The DP Show airs from 7 to 10 a.m., adjusting to that time change.
Okay.
Get your radios locked to 7 a.m. on KDUS AM 1060.
You never know who might become available during the NFL offseason. You never know what team might just want to move on from a player. We told you yesterday that the combine is where we start to see the drip from the faucet, the leaks start to happen, the groundwork start to be laid for potential moves. And we told you this is the week where stories could come out of nowhere. And potentially, a new name has emerged for the Arizona Cardinals, and this is why you preach patience and allowing the entire offseason to play itself out before you criticize what a general manager has done. Right? We know how important this offseason is for the Cardinals. We know what they have to accomplish between now and week 1 of the season. This is it. This might be the last chance for Kyler Murray. And if you have to reset at the quarterback position, there's a whole can of worms that opens with that. Do you go via trade? Do you try to sign somebody in free agency? Are you trying to maneuver up to the top pick? I don't want to do any of that right now. I don't want to have that conversation. I want to see this team build on doubling their win total from a year ago, going from 4 wins to 8 wins, almost hosting a home playoff game. I want to see that come to fruition. I want to see them finish their story. I want to see them finish this progression that they have been on the last couple of years since they brought in this new regime. That's why this offseason is so important. That's why they have to land some big fish to fill some of the gaps that were part of the reason why they missed last year. Kyler Murray part of it, but the defense also a part of it. Smoke and mirrors a lot of the time. Didn't have the talent that matched up with the rest of the division. So you can have a plan. We can talk about all these names, but sometimes things fall out of nowhere. And perhaps one of those stories emerged today. Because this morning, the general manager of the Washington Commanders, Adam Peters, confirmed this. They have granted defensive tackle Jonathan Allen permission to seek a trade. Jonathan Allen, a 2-time Pro Bowler, has a cap hit of $22.3 million for next season. But if you trade for him, he's owed about $17 million in cash, so that's what you're taking on in a deal. You're just taking on what is left owed to him. The other cap-related stuff is what is held over when a guy gets traded. So does this make sense for the Arizona Cardinals to pursue? Well, he checks a box. He fits a need. They need help on the interior of their defensive line. They need to overhaul their front seven. We know this. They're going to invest a lot of resources into overhauling that front seven. So Jonathan Allen plays one of those positions. Immediately, he's a candidate. Immediately, his resume gets bumped up to the top of the list, right? Immediately, he gets moved on to the interview stage. You have experience doing the thing we need to fill here? Boom. Interview this man immediately. He's 30 years old, or will be 30 years old. He missed 9 games last year. Was back for the final 2 games of the regular season and was a part of the Commanders' postseason run. Finished the year with 3 sacks. But over the previous 6 years, before this past year, where he missed 9 games, he missed 3 games the previous 6 seasons and had 42 sacks in 108 starts. Remember, this is an interior player. This is a defensive tackle. This is not your pass rusher on the outside. This is your disruptor on the inside. This is the middle of the defensive line that's blowing up the center and the 2 guards and is coming up the middle to put pressure on the quarterback to feed that guy directly in to your guys on the edge. That's what Jonathan Allen provides. $17 million is what he's owed. If you sign Milton Williams, he might cost just as much. If you sign Josh Sweat, he might cost more. He probably will cost more. So from a cost perspective, from what he is owed and what you're going to have to pay him, that's right in line with what it's going to cost if the Cardinals are seriously interested in getting Milton Williams or getting Josh Sweat. Right in the same range. So it's not a bargain. You're not getting somebody for a cheaper market value. But if you're going to be all in and you're going to be talking to Milton Williams and you're going to be talking to Josh Sweat and you're going to be going down that path, it's going to cost just as much. So the price tag is not something you shy away from. The age isn't something that you shy away from. Last year was his age 29 season. Now it's going to have to come probably with a new contract because he's on the last year of his deal, but you're going to sign a new deal for Milton Williams. You're going to sign a deal for Josh Sweat. So again, if you're interested in those guys, I think you should be interested in Jonathan Allen. So he's not going to cost more, and he doesn't come at a huge bargain. He's right in line with what you're going to be paying other free agents. I think his age checks a box going into his age 30 season. So not somebody who's 33, 34 years old that maybe could give you 1 or 2 more years. You're going to sign a guy to a probably 4-year extension. That's some peak production you're going to get. So he checks that box. Compensation. What would the Cardinals have to give up to land Jonathan Allen? That's the question here. Because then you can have the debate of what's more worth my resources. I'm limited in my resources this offseason. I've only got 5 draft picks. I've got a lot of cap space, but I've only got 5 draft picks. Is it worthwhile to take a draft pick or draft picks and money and get Jonathan Allen? Or is it better served to keep my draft picks and just use money to sign Milton Williams or to sign Josh Sweat? What's better? I don't know what it's going to cost. Are they going to ask for a first? Are they going to ask for a second? Are they just looking for a day 3 pick? Are they just looking to move down? I don't know what Washington will be looking for in this deal. I don't know what they're looking to accomplish. Are they just moving on because they have other players on their roster that are owed a lot of money, and so they're trying to free up some resources? They're just trying to clear the money, or are they trying to get the maximum value? The GM confirmed that they're letting him seek a trade. That doesn't really help you in negotiations. That doesn't really help you maximize the return. So what's a better use of the Cardinals' resources? And so the reason why I wanted to bring up this story today and talk about this is these situations appear out of nowhere. These opportunities can come out of left field. They might not all be the best scenarios for the Cardinals. You may determine that you don't want to give up the draft pick and the money. You don't want to give up the draft pick and sign Allen to a contract extension. You would rather just keep the draft picks, be able to draft young players, develop them yourselves, hopefully try to find your version of Jonathan Allen, and just spend the cap space. Because if you give up the cap space and the draft picks, you're getting one player for all of that. Whereas if you can sign a Milton Williams and you also have the draft picks, you're getting multiple players for the money and draft picks it would take you to acquire Jonathan Allen. So do you think Jonathan Allen is a better player than Milton Williams? Do you think he is a better fit than Milton Williams? Or is Williams a better fit? Those are the conversations that are being had in the front office. But every one of these scenarios that pops up needs to be explored. These conversations need to be happening in the Cardinals front office. Ooh, is this better than what we were originally going to do? Is this a better path for us to go down? Because 2 days ago, maybe you didn't think Jonathan Allen was going to be available, but now that he is, you think he's a better player and a better fit than Williams is. I don't know. I'm guessing. For me, with the limited resources that the team has at their disposal, you got to maximize those resources. And so using top-end draft picks, like a first or a day 2 pick, I'd feel a little uneasy about that plus a contract extension for a guy when I can just spend money. Now, again, a bidding war could break out for Williams and for Sweat. And maybe you get priced out to where Jonathan Allen ultimately does become a bargain. Before, the market value for those guys all look the same. 4 or 5 teams get involved, bidding war for the 2 free agents. Now, all of a sudden, you can just sneak off and trade for Jonathan Allen and get him under a deal that's, you don't have to compete with anybody else. You're just competing with yourself. That might be wise. Every single day, there's a chance for a new opportunity to emerge. The Browns are unchanged, unwavering in their commitment to not moving Myles Garrett right now. That could change. Jonathan Allen on Friday was not a topic of conversation here on this show. These opportunities present themselves sometimes out of thin air. Every single one of them needs to be evaluated, needs to be explored, and there needs to be these conversations in the front office. Do I think it's the perfect fit for the Cardinals? No, because it's a contract and it's picks with a team that only has 5 picks. This is last year. I might be interested in doing this when I have more picks, when I have some additional resources. I'm limited this year. And until I see Monty use picks aggressively, I'm always going to default to he's going to hold on to them. He's going to default to keeping them in-house. But that's not going to stop us here on this show from talking about these situations when they pop up. When Jonathan Allen gets permission to go get a trade, go find a trade partner, and it's a position that the Cardinals need, yeah, you bet that the eyebrow's going to raise a little bit, and you're going to be like, maybe that makes some sense. That might help the team. Each one of these needs to be evaluated on their own merit compared to where the Cardinals think they stand in free agency with Milton Williams. They probably have a good gauge of who might be interested. They might have a good gauge of what that number might look like. And they might say, we're not going to be able to be there. So this is our pivot. We're going to go get Jonathan Allen. Maybe. Or maybe they feel we are strongly in the mix here. We're going to see this through. But with each one of these new scenarios, it requires a reset. It requires somewhat of a reprioritization of, hey, is this a better option for us? I know we're going down this path, but this came out of nowhere. Is this better for us? And having those open and honest conversations. Coming up, the other side of the break, we wrap up today's edition of The Lunch Break. I've got a lot of stories for the leftovers. I've got a lot of football-related stories for the leftovers. We'll get to it all here next. The Lunch Break, KDUS AM 1060.
The NAIA, JUCO, small college, high school sports, and you. Listen to Vince and Friends with the Varsity Sports Show here on KDUS AM 1060, Saturday mornings at 9 a.m.
Deftones. North American Tour 2025, live in Phoenix. Footprint Center, March 9th. With special guests, the Mars Volta and Fleshwater. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Presented by the Big Red Radio.
Hi, welcome to the IKEA Dream Bedroom event.
I've been extra sleepy lately. Glad I made it here.
You're in luck. IKEA family members save 15% on all bed frames and bedside tables.
Ooh.
Plus, free shipping on small orders over $50.
Am I still dreaming?
It's for real. Save even more with buy one, get 50% off deals on table lamps, curtains, and more.
Nice.
Shop the IKEA Dream Bedroom event in-store or online today.
Offer valid 2/19 to 3/17/25. U.S. only while supplies last. Selection may vary. See store and IKEA-USA.com/sleep for details. Restrictions apply.
Hey, basketball fans. Tom Chambers here reminding you that just like in a game, you need a solid defense for your home. And that starts with a reliable roof from Right Way Roofing. Hey, Lori, as owner of Right Way Roofing, what sets you apart from the competition?
Our team tackles any roofing challenge from shingles to tile to foam roofing. We'll make sure your roof wins against the toughest opponents. Rain, wind, and even those scorching summer days.
Make Right Way Roofing your MVP.
We're Right Way Roofing and we do it right. We'll always keep you watertight.
Take advantage of thousands of dollars in SRP rebates and discounts on energy-efficient home upgrades like new air conditioning units, windows, ducts, and insulation. Save money on your energy bill while also making your home more comfortable. SRP's network of participating contractors can guide you from start to finish and maximize your savings by combining Inflation Reduction Act incentives with SRP rebates. Learn more at savewithsrp.com.
Listener rewards for you with the KDUS 1060 app. Download today to hear all of the national and local shows you love. That's the KDUS 1060 app.
Back to wrap up today's edition of The Lunch Break. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you joining us all throughout the show. Make sure you download the KDUS AM 1060 app so you can take us with you on the go wherever you go. We're still working, producer Corey, on the dartboard. I know that you're only in here once a week with us, but the dartboard is still a work in progress.
I'm happy with the idea still.
Well, the reason why we had to kind of postpone the idea is, and for those of you that watch the video version of the show, I'm back in my normal setup.
Mm-hmm.
I have control of all the buttons again, which is scary in and of itself. But when I was sitting in the other chair, we can't put the dartboard on the other side of the room.
There's the glass.
There's glass. There's a TV.
You get one good throw, and then it's over.
Whereas in this corner that we're thinking of putting the dartboard for the leftovers, where we just put all the stories on the board and I throw the dartboard and that's the story we talk about, there's padding surrounding the area where we would put the dartboard. There's still glass, but less glass than the other direction. So because we were working on some stuff in here, we're doing some equipment upgrades, I had to move seats, and so the dartboard for the leftovers got postponed. But we're still working on it. It still could come to a leftovers segment sooner rather than later. I will start with the NFL story since we were just talking NFL in the last segment. It apparently is the Green Bay Packers who are suggesting banning the tush push. We learned yesterday that an anonymous team had suggested banning the tush push. Well, we got it confirmed yesterday that it was the Green Bay Packers because the general manager of the team confirmed that they were the team that made the proposal. So the executive vice president of football operations, Troy Vincent, on Monday said that a team had submitted a rule to ban the tush push. The Green Bay Packers on Tuesday said, yes, it was us. This is what the general manager said. Quote, I know we're not very successful against it. I know that. But to be honest with you, I have not put much thought into it. It's been around for a while. We've used it in different fashions with our tight end. I think there will be a lot of discussions about it. I've got to kind of look at some of the information as far as injury rates and things like that, but we'll see. So the owners are going to potentially vote on these rules next month with the league meeting in Palm Beach, Florida. If something gets to a vote, 24 of the 32 owners have to vote for it. So every single year we get a bunch of these proposals, and there are a couple. We know that there are going to be some conversations about onside kicks is what I meant to say. Evaluating ways to make it at least more likely that onside kicks could be recovered, not making it overwhelmingly likely that they get recovered, but to do something to give teams a chance. And that means we're going to kick up the 4th and 15 play, one play from the 35-yard line, 4th and 15. You get the ball at midfield if you pick it up. That kind of stuff is going to come up again. Replay is going to come up again. When replay assist can get involved is going to come up again. And now we know that the tush-push is going to come up again. Now, I'm mixed on this, right? Because the play is legal. The NFL changed the rules to say that you can do this, that you can aid a player, that you can push a player and aid them even though you're not the ball carrier or a part of the play, right? You can get behind Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen and push them forward. The rules that the NFL wrote and then changed allow this to be the case. So the Eagles aren't taking a rule and interpreting it in a way that requires us to determine, is this really what we intended the rule to be? And they're trying to skirt the system. No, the rule is written in a way where this is completely legal. Now, the NFL could go back to the way it was written before, where you can't aid a player and push them forward. Can't do that. You can't do what Reggie Bush did at USC, pushing Matt Leinart into the end zone. Not the tush push, but the Bush push. That was a rule on the books. They changed it. So if you want to change it again, that's fine. I do have a problem, though, with this idea of the only reason why we're bringing it up is because everybody can't stop it. That feels a little sour grapes to me. And for those of you who say, well, what should you do to stop it? I have a good buddy, Trevor Sikkema, who works in NFL media spaces. He's been around the block a couple of times. I believe he's with PFF right now. He's a good friend, known him for a long time. He made the suggestion, which is a great one, of just stop them on the other 3 plays. Don't allow them to get it into a 4th and 1 situation where you can do the tush push. You don't want them to run that play? Do better defensively on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down. So this is going to be a conversation. We'll see ultimately if 24 teams, 24 owners vote for this rule to be passed so that the tush push is outlined. And we'll see how they ultimately reword the rule if they are to do so. Another NFL story for you. If you want a story that confirms that 2 sides are going to part ways, that 2 sides are not seeing eye to eye, it's the story between the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins. Both the general manager and head coach of the Falcons today said at the Combine that they were unaware that Cousins was dealing with an injury late in the 2024 season. During Super Bowl week, Kirk Cousins was on NFL Network, and he said that in Week 10 he got hit, and he had a right shoulder and right elbow problem the rest of the way. His arm never got back to where he wanted it to be. That's according to him. Now, he was on the injury report during Week 11, and he was limited due to a right shoulder and right elbow injury. Cousins said that it was a, quote, a clerical error when he was asked about it, him being on the report. But the organization said that they did not know. They were unaware that he had this injury. You've got your franchise quarterback, who you gave a huge contract to in the offseason, that you wanted to be the future of your team. You gave him a $90 million guarantee in the deal that he signed with you last offseason. And you aren't on the same page with that guy in terms of his injury status. You didn't know that he had an injury late in the season. And even if you're lying to cover, and I don't know why you would do that. I don't know what the angle is for the GM and the coach to come out and say, we didn't know about this injury after Kirk talked about it. Just kind of makes you look foolish. Makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. You're not aware that the quarterback that you signed to a 4-year contract, I know you drafted Michael Penix, but you drafted Kirk Cousins because you thought he could take you to the playoffs. you were unaware that he had an injury late in the season. You were still fighting for a playoff spot. And you didn't know? It just doesn't make you look good. So why would you lie? Why would you go with that as your reasoning that you didn't know? This is just trending towards these two sides. They clearly don't see eye to eye on this. They clearly didn't see eye to eye throughout the season. Just didn't work. Michael Penix came in at the end of the season. They are ready to move on. They are just trying to find a suitor. Now, Kirk didn't play well last year, so that's going to make his market a little difficult to determine who's really going to be interested. But we are trending towards a breakup between these two sides. You have the owner, and you have the general manager and the head coach going to the podium and say, yeah, we were unaware that he was hurt in week 11. You had weeks to get your story straight. He said that during Super Bowl week that he got hit and was hurt in the arm. It's the end of February. Super Bowl week was 2-3 weeks ago. You had multiple weeks to get your story straight, and the answer that you have for us all is, oh, yeah, we didn't know. We were unaware. You're the coach and the general manager of the team, and you're unaware that your quarterback that you gave $90 million guaranteed to got hurt in week 10, and you put him on the injury report the following week? And after week 10, he had 9 interceptions and just 1 touchdown pass over the next 5 games. Not good. Not a good look for the Falcons and their organization as they move into their next chapter with Michael Penix under center. The Matthew Stafford market starting to heat up. Giants, Browns, Steelers, Raiders, all potentially interested. That's interesting because you have the Giants and the Browns, teams picking 2 and 3 in the draft. So that could change the draft. We spent the top of hour number 1 talking about the Titans moving the number 1 pick. If the Giants or Browns, or Raiders for that matter, but the Giants and Browns picking 2 and 3, they end up with a quarterback, that means one quarterback's going to slide. Or they might trade for Stafford and draft the heir apparent. Pull a Jordan Love. Have Rodgers under contract, but draft his replacement. So a lot to pay attention to there. Those are 4 teams that have been linked at this point. Giants, Browns, Steelers, Raiders. And we know all of those teams. Giants, no more Daniel Jones, so they're in the quarterback market. The Browns, I think they're looking to be done with Deshaun Watson. The Steelers, do they want to bring back Russ? Do they want to bring back Justin Fields? Do they want one of those 2 guys to be their quarterbacks? Or are they interested in Matt Stafford? The Raiders, where are they at in their, what does Pete Carroll want? I think you hire a 73-year-old head coach. We said they're not going to trade Max Crosby because of that, and I think they might be looking more towards a veteran quarterback. So Kirk Cousins, Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, I think all of those guys could potentially be in play for the Raiders, especially because of where they pick. They pick 6th. Tough for them to potentially land a quarterback, and you got a 73-year-old coach that might want to try to win right away. What's Stafford going to cost? What's Cousins going to cost? What's Rodgers going to cost? Not a whole lot. So you can get in a veteran that might have something left in the tank. Stafford certainly does. There are people out there that think Rodgers still does. Cousins, maybe another year removed from the Achilles injury, he's got a chance to do something. You might be more open to potentially doing that. So the Stafford market starting to heat up. 4 teams involved right now. Who knows if somebody else is going to jump into the fray. James Harden made a 6-figure contribution to the Sun Angel Collective and talked about how, we've got a great program here at Arizona State. And NIL is how you get players and how you build your program. And if money is what is required to help get that done, he has the money in order to do that. He's made millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in his career as an NBA player and, sneaker deals and brand deals and all that stuff. And so he's giving back, and he did so with a 6-figure contribution to the Sun Angel Collective. Talked about it on a podcast this week. Shout out to James Harden, helping the Sun Devils and the Sun Angel Collective with the NIL. Says, listen, if all you need is money, I've got it. I'm good. I can contribute. I can help. That's going to do it for us here on this edition of the show. Producer Corey, thank you for all that you do. Jim Rome, he is coming up next. We're out of here. We will talk to you tomorrow. Everybody, have a great rest of your Tuesday. See ya!